Melissa, 40, the invisible sister my family mocked as a failure while I secretly built a multi-million-dollar empire. At our Memorial Day cookout, my sister Fiona bragged about her interview with my company, unaware I'm the CEO. Tomorrow, I'll expose their lies and shatter their smug illusions in a showdown they'll never forget. The scent of hickory smoke and sizzling sausage floated through the humid air as the Wilson family's annual Memorial Day cookout kicked off in Savannah. Another day of their pity and Fiona's spotlight, I thought, my stomach twisting with resentment. Kids chased each other through the grass, plastic plates stacked with cornbread and coleslaw clattered on folding tables, and my uncles argued about Georgia Bulldogs football like it was a court case. I leaned against a magnolia tree near the edge of the yard. 40 now, though my family still saw me as the one who never quite made it. My younger sister Fiona sparkled in a canary yellow wrap dress, charming our aunts with tales of her job prospects and international travels. Fiona just wrapped up her MBA at Stanford, my mom crowed loud enough to carry over the buzz of the bug zapper. She's been interviewing with some real powerhouses, Amazon, Bain, even Tesla. She beamed, clearly basking in reflected glory. I took a slow sip from my sweet tea, waiting for the punchline. And meanwhile, she added with a practiced sigh, someone's still doing whatever it is she does, right, Melissa? You've dismissed me for years, Mom, but you'll choke on those words soon, I thought, my smile masking my fury. Across the lawn, my dad manned the smoker, apron on and beer in hand. Still messing around with that tech thing? He asked. Data analytics or something? He chuckled, not cruel, but never serious. Messing around? I'm running an empire you can't even fathom, I thought, my heart pounding with defiance. I glanced at my phone. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., final merger approval with Delta Insights, followed by the rollout of our new executive suite. As founder and CEO of Peak Pulse Analytics, I'd be making the call, something like that, I said with a shrug. That's when Fiona clapped excitedly. Big news! I have an interview tomorrow with Peak Pulse Analytics. Can you believe it? They called me directly. It's one of the top data analytics firms in the U.S. You're walking into my trap, Fiona thought, a smirk tugging at my lips. Applause rang out. Aunt Cheryl handed her a mimosa. I just smiled. She'd be seeing me again, just not in the way she expected. That's incredible, Fiona. I just read a piece about Peak Pulse's founder. Brilliant woman. Completely self-submitted. My Uncle Dennis chimed in, nodding with admiration. That firm's no joke. They only hire the best. Real. Selective. I suppressed a laugh, picturing the HR folder open on my laptop back in my home office. Fiona Wilson, neatly listed among the external candidates for the final interview round. She didn't know the firm she was hyping up was mine, that I had started Peak Pulse Analytics in a cramped Savannah apartment 15 years ago with a used laptop and a second-hand coffee pot. You're praising my empire without knowing it's mine, Dad, I thought, my amusement tinged with bitterness. While she'd followed every rule laid out for her, I'd spent my 20s writing new ones. What role are you interviewing for? I asked casually. Fiona's eyes lit up. Senior strategy consultant. Practically executive tier, can you imagine? Executive? You're not ready for my world, Fiona, I thought, my eyes narrowing. Wow, I said, letting the smile tug at my lips. Sounds promising. She tilted her head, feigning kindness. If I get the job, maybe I can put in a word for you, Melissa. I'm sure they've got admin openings you could grow into. Admin? You'll beg for my mercy tomorrow, I said silently, my smile sharpening. My mother raised her wine glass approvingly. That's sweet of you, honey. Lord knows your sister could use a nudge in the right direction. 40? And still, Fiona trailed off, gesturing vaguely in my direction. Still, I've surpassed you all, and you're too blind to see it, I thought, my blood simmering. Figuring it out, I thought about my executive office overlooking the Savannah River, nestled atop the Peak Pulse Tower downtown. About the industry roundtable next month, where I'd be speaking under my professional alias M. Ray, a name that had recently graced the cover of Forbes. They hadn't connected the dots. Not yet. That's generous of you, I said, voice smooth as honey. Best of luck tomorrow, Fiona grinned. Some of us create our own luck, sis. You should try it. Luck? I built my success while you chased applause, I thought, my resolve hardening. The conversation drifted on to my cousin's new boat, my aunt's bridge tournament, and Fiona's thesis awards. I let it all wash over me. Tomorrow, everything would shift, and I wanted to remember what they looked like before the mask fell. As twilight settled over the yard, casting amber hues across the crepe myrtle branches, Fiona rose from her seat and tapped her wineglass with a manicured nail. "I'll have to call it an early night," she announced, her voice projecting effortlessly. "Need to be sharp for tomorrow," she smiled. With theatrical pride, the CEO of Peak Pulse Analytics is personally sitting in on final interviews. Ray or something. Nobody even knows who she really is. Nobody? You're about to meet her, Fiona thought, my heart racing with anticipation. She tossed her hair. Well, whoever she is, she's going to love me. By this time tomorrow, I'll be part of their executive strategy team. Then she turned to Mom and added with a smug wink, "Maybe then you'll have something real to brag about." Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "Oh, sweetheart, we already do. At least one of our girls didn't lose the plot." "Lose the plot? You'll eat those words when you see my throne," I thought, my smile cold. I glanced at my watch. 14 hours and 52 minutes until Fiona would walk into the conference room on the 30th floor and find me, Melissa Wilson, at the head of the interview panel. 14 hours until the world she built on assumptions and status collapsed. I stood and quietly gathered my bag. "Early client call," I murmured. "Oh, your little remote hustle," Mom said, distracted. "Don't forget to Venmo for your father's birthday. Fiona already paid most of it." Again, Fiona paid? "I've been funding your lives, and you credit her?" I thought, my anger flaring. I nodded and walked to my nondescript gray SUV, the same one I always brought to family functions. My real car, a custom white BMW M8, stayed tucked away in my downtown garage. As I backed out of the driveway, tomorrow. If you want to see Fiona's face when she realizes who's sitting across from her, hit subscribe because, trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. What a waste. Can't even land a real job. I smiled to myself, picturing the brushed steel nameplate on my desk. Ray, Chief Executive Officer, Peak Pulse Analytics. Tomorrow Fiona would finally learn what a real job looked like and why she'd never have one at my company. By 7:30 a.m., I was already in my executive office downtown, sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Savannah River. The soft hum of servers warming up and the faint clatter of early arriving staff echoed like music through the halls. I had built every inch of this place, and today it would all come full circle. The slate gray Moxmata suit hugged me like armor, calm, confident, battle-ready. As I skimmed the morning agenda, my executive assistant Jade knocked and stepped in. "He's in the lobby already? Got here 45 minutes early." "Punctual," I murmured. "That's new," Jade smirked. "Fiona's trying to impress you, unaware you're the one she's mocked for years," Jade said, her eyes glinting with shared amusement. She also posted on LinkedIn, "Manifesting my future as a Peak Pulse exec. It's trending under women in leadership. Marketing flagged it." I stifled a laugh. Did she now? Manifest her? She's about to manifest her downfall, I thought, my smirk widening. The folder looked polished. Stanford MBA, impressive internships, glowing references. But I knew better. Those internships pulled from our uncle's business network, those glowing reviews. Family friends. A performance resume stitched together with borrowed thread. "The board's asking why you're sitting in on this one," Jade added. "Quality assurance. I'm here to expose her facade," I said, my voice low with determination. "How many interviews before mine?" 3. All briefed. They'll dig deep. At 10:00 a.m. I stood behind the one-way glass of our top-floor conference suite and watched Fiona glide in Chanel's skirt suit, Louis Vuitton's air of unearned certainty. She shook hands with her first interviewer like she'd already won. For 2 hours I watched the illusion fall apart. Every canned line picked apart, every rehearsed story cracked open, every polished title challenged and redefined. By the time Fiona reached the final interview, mine, her shoulders drooped, her voice carried the faint edge of doubt, and her once dazzling smile had grown tight and uncertain. "Send her in," I told Jade. Fiona stepped into my office, failing to mask her awe. Her eyes swept over the panoramic windows framing the Savannah River. the abstract oil painting behind my desk, the soft glow of polished oak and brushed steel. She paused just long enough to take it all in. My back was to her, facing the view. "Please have a seat, Miss Wilson," I said, tone even and restrained. She sat down carefully, crossing her legs, hands folded. "Thank you for taking the time, Miss Ray. I know how valuable your schedule must be." I slowly turned my chair to face her, letting the silence do the work. "Actually," I said, eyes locking with hers, "it's Ms. Ray, Melissa Wilson Ray. Surprised, Henios? Your Samilia's sister runs this empire," I said, my voice dripping with calm menace. Her face drained of color. She looked to the nameplate, to the awards on the wall, to the framed Forbes cover with the headline, "Ray, the woman quietly reshaping data analytics worldwide." "You," she breathed. "Hello, Fiona," I said, with a calm sister running the company you couldn't wait to join. She blinked. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. The prepared answers, the pre-rehearsed jokes gone. "But that can't be," she managed. "You're just some remote freelancer. That's what Mom always said." "Freelancer? I've been outpacing you while you basked in their lies," I said, my smile cold and cutting. "Is that so?" I gestured casually to the accolades lining the shelves. "While you were collecting degrees, I was collecting contracts. While you flaunted job offers, I was building a global client base. Every time you called me a failure, I was negotiating with Fortune 100. Fiona's voice cracked. "You tricked us. You lied." I met her gaze steady as stone. "No, you just never asked who I really was." "No, Fiona," I replied, voice level and controlled. "You all tricked yourselves. You were so busy assuming I was a failure. You never once stopped to ask what I was really building." I picked up my phone and opened my banking app, turning the screen so she could see this birthday money Mom mentioned. "Just set my share. It's a 7-figure transfer. For me, it's a rounding error." "You mocked my hustle, but my wealth dwarfs your dreams," I said, my tone unyielding. Tears welled in her eyes. Not the broken kind, but hot, humiliated, furious. "So what now?" she snapped. "You going to tell the whole family? Make a spectacle of this?" "A spectacle? You've made one of yourself," I said, my eyes boring into hers. I shook my head. "I don't need to say a word. Your interview performance already did that. 3 senior partners separately recommended against hiring you. Feedback was unanimous, too arrogant, too shallow, completely unprepared." Her voice cracked. "You set me up. I gave you exactly what you asked for. A chance to prove yourself. I just happened to be on the other side of the table." I stood, brushing down the front of my suit. "You should look elsewhere, Fiona. Try building something real next time. Something not propped up by hashtags and Uncle Charles's endorsement." She rose unsteadily. Her expensive heels suddenly looked clumsy on the polished floor. The Chanel blazer she wore like a crown now hung like a mask, ill-fitting and exposed. "Do Mom and Dad know?" "They'll know when you cry to them," I said, my voice devoid of mercy. "They will," I said, stepping past her to the door. "I'm sure you'll tell them all about your interview with M. Ray," I pressed the intercom. "Jade, please escort Miss Wilson out and cancel my dinner with the family." "Yes, Miss Ray." "I've got a board meeting that requires my full attention." As the door clicked shut behind her, I heard her voice crack in the hallway, followed by a muffled sob. "You thought you'd outshine me, Fiona, but you're just a flicker," I thought, my satisfaction cold and complete. Not exactly the triumphant exit she had imagined. An hour later, my phone buzzed with incoming texts. First from Mom. "What kind of cruel stunt was that? Fiona is in tears. Cruel? You raised her to belittle me, Mom," I thought, my anger reignited. Then from Dad. "How could you humiliate your sister? We didn't raise you to be vindictive." "Vindictive? I'm just showing you the truth you ignored," I thought, my resolve unshaken. I stared at the screen, let out a quiet breath, and turned it face down on my desk. They finally knew who I really was. But what they didn't realize, what they never asked, was that I'd stopped needing their approval a long time ago. I replied to the family group chat with a single message. "You raised me to be successful. Congratulations, you did. Now, maybe you'll recognize what real achievement looks like." You mocked me, but I'm the one standing tall, I thought, my heart steady with triumph. Then, I powered off my phone and turned back to what mattered. Running a multi-million-dollar analytics firm that reshaped entire industries while they were too busy making jokes at my expense. Let them take their time adjusting. I wasn't slowing down for their comfort. Over the next few months, the shift was palpable. When they called, which was rare, the conversations were stiff, deliberate. The old jokes about my side hustle vanished. In their place, cautious pleasantries, awkward silences, and overdone praise during Zoom breaks. Fiona eventually landed a project coordinator job at a small branding agency across town. Not quite the executive seat she envisioned. No glass-walled office, no viral LinkedIn announcement. Just a job. Earned the traditional way without shortcuts. Mom and Dad quietly stopped hosting their Sunday dinners. Maybe they were embarrassed. Or maybe they just didn't know how to exist in a world where the daughter they dismissed now owned the skyline they used to point to with pity. But the moment that sealed it came 4 months later. Forbes released their spring issue with a bold headline on the cover: "The Silent Success: How One Woman Built a Multi-Million-Dollar Company While Her Family Thought She Was Failing." There I was, centered in full color, sharp suit, Savannah's cityscape behind me. No aliases, no silhouettes, just Melissa Wilson Ray in full view. I had 12 copies express mailed to each of my family members' homes. No card, no message, just the magazine. Read it and weep, family. Your failure is a legend, I thought, my victory quiet but absolute. The article traced my rise from cramped freelance gigs in a rented apartment to leading one of America's most trusted AI firms. It laid bare the sacrifices, the strategy, and the silence that had carried me here, right under their noses. And at the end, the final line read, "Sometimes success doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just signs the checks." And for me, that was enough. I no longer craved their praise or their permission to feel proud. I had built something real, something lasting, something that no one could minimize with a joke or dismiss with a shrug. Let them tell their version of the story now. Let them rewrite the past to make themselves seem more supportive. Let them pretend they always believed in me. While they recalibrate their narrative, I'm leading Peak Pulse Analytics into a new era, finalizing our expansion into Asia, onboarding 3 enterprise-level contracts, and mentoring the next wave of underrepresented founders in tech. I'm doing what I love with a team I respect, building systems that matter. Success has already spoken quietly, clearly, and without apology, and I have no intention of lowering the volume. Now, if you've ever been overlooked by the people who are supposed to believe in you, trust me, I see you. I know what it's like to sit in a room full of family and feel invisible, to be the one they talk over, laugh at, underestimate. I was called too vague, too emotional, too impractical. I was told I lacked direction while my sister racked up awards and applause. I was cast as the family wild card, harmless, forgettable. But I didn't argue. I didn't beg them to see me. I let the silence speak. And while they were talking, I was building. Now, they can't look away. This story isn't about revenge. It's about resilience. It's about walking into your own power, especially when no one is close. If you've ever felt the need to downplay your wins, if you've ever built something beautiful in the dark just to avoid judgment, or if you're still pushing forward in spite of doubt, drop a comment below and tell me about it. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me who counted you out and what you've done anyway. Tell me what gives you strength when nobody's cheering, not for validation but for peace. And if this story made something in you sit up and say, "That's me," hit that subscribe button. This isn't just a channel for underdog stories. It's a space for builders, for dreamers, for quiet giants. It's where we celebrate strength that doesn't need silence. Let 'em laugh, let 'em doubt. We'll keep building. Because sometimes the best way to win is in silence until your name is on the building. Before you go, how are you doing? Really, did something go right today? Or are you just holding the line? One moment at a time. Drop it below. I read every single comment. This isn't just my story. It's ours. Let's celebrate your quiet victories.